Hi everyone, welcome back. Thanks for joining us today. We've got a brand new story to share with you. So let's begin. My name is Kevin. 12 years of marriage doesn't end in one blow. It's a slow leak, and I didn't notice how fast we were sinking until the ship hit the bottom. On the day I got my divorce letter, I was at work when the receptionist called me. I honestly thought it was a surprise package from someone. I didn't think much of it. But when I got downstairs, I saw a man standing there with a manila envelope in his hand. Inside were the documents that signified the end of our marriage. She had made her decision and sent someone else to deliver it. She was going for everything. And I mean everything. But what she didn't see coming was what happened next. I met Amanda back when I was just getting my business off the ground. Those were long days and even longer nights. I had this vision, and I was pouring everything into it. Amanda came into the picture during that early hustle. She wasn't part of the business world herself as she worked in corporate, but she admired the drive. We started off as friends for a long time. We talked during the few spare hours I had, usually late at night after I'd wrapped up work. I simply didn't have the time. But somehow, despite that, we began dating. Things moved quickly, and within a year, we were already talking about marriage. I told myself, when you know, you know. And back then, it felt like I knew she was the one for me. Marriage felt like the natural next step. Build a life, grow together, start a family. I was still working ridiculous hours, but I figured it would all even out once the business stabilized. I thought love and commitment were enough to bridge the gap between what I could give and what she might need. And, in the beginning, it seemed like it was working. We had our son 2 years into the marriage, and our daughter 2 years after that. But that's the thing about appearances. They don't show you what's happening behind closed doors. One of the biggest cracks that formed in our marriage was money. From the outside, everything probably looked fine. We had a decent home, decent cars, decent jobs. But behind closed doors, the way we saw money and what it was a silent war that never stopped. Amanda's idea of happiness was tied to spending. Fancy clothes, designer handbags, weekend spa treatments, high-end phones, the newest everything. If it was trending, she wanted it. And if her friends had it, she needed it. She believed that if you had the money, you should spend it. Otherwise, what's the point? And if you didn't have the money, there was always her favorite 4-letter word, credit. I'm not cheap, but I believe in being responsible. I've always thought, if you have a roof over your head, food in your fridge, and your kids are taken care of, that's what matters most. I run a private business, and while I make good money, it's not money that rains down every day. It comes with stress, unpredictability, and months where cash flow dips. So I plan, save, and think ahead. We had a setup that worked, on paper. I covered the big stuff, rent, school fees, groceries, maintenance, you name it. Amanda, with her income, handled some of the smaller household bills. And, at first, I had no problem with that. But as time went on, it started to feel like the more I earned, the more she demanded. She would say, I need this, or why can't you just buy this? And if I hesitated, she would give me a cold shoulder, throw tantrums at every given opportunity, and have mood swings for days, sometimes weeks. It was like living with someone who measured love by receipts and shopping bags. Eventually, I stopped telling her how much I made. I didn't do it out of secrecy. I did it out of survival. Because every time I was honest and shared that I had a good month or landed a big client, the very next breath from her would be, so when are we getting to do this? Or let's upgrade the car. Or I saw this thing I really want. And if I said no because we needed to hold off or focus on priorities, suddenly I was stingy. I didn't care about her happiness. I wasn't supportive. I was hiding things. I became the bad guy in my own house. I couldn't deal with the emotional blackmail that followed every financial conversation. She said I lacked transparency. But the truth is, being transparent with her never felt safe. She'd take the information and twist it into pressure. It reached a point where I'd rather stay quiet than deal with the drama that came from just being honest. Over time, that silence created a gap between us, a growing space filled with resentment, miscommunication, and mutual distrust. She thought I was being distant. I thought she was being unreasonable. And neither of us wanted to back down. That's the part people don't tell you about money problems in marriage. One person might see money as a tool for security, and the other might treat it like a shortcut to happiness. And when those views clash again and again, it doesn't just affect your bank account. It erodes your peace, your connection, your respect for each other. And that's exactly what it did to us. By the time we hit our 10th anniversary, things between Amanda and me were trying to go from bad to worse. She made a decision that she wasn't going to work anymore. There was no discussion or plan, just a firm declaration. I've sacrificed enough for this house. She said she was done contributing financially. She brought up a couple of her friends who stayed at home, went to brunch, took trips, and got pampered. She said, "Why should I be the only one still working while everyone else gets to enjoy their lives?" I asked her gently if she thought it was fair that leaving everything on my shoulders was really the solution. She said she deserved it. After she quit her job, she got even more distant at home. She was barely around anymore. Instead, she was out almost every evening. There was always some event or gathering or girls' thing that just couldn't be missed. Hair done, nails perfect, dressed like she was on a red carpet. And when she did come home, it was like the house bored her. The part that stung the most was that I could feel her checking out. Not just from me, but from our kids. From the family we built. And every time I tried to talk about it, she'd either get defensive or say I was trying to control her. I just didn't recognize the person I married anymore. I wish I could tell you things got better after the early signs. But no, things got worse. There was one fight that really shifted everything for me, made me sit back and say this marriage might actually be breaking, and I might not be able to fix it. One Thursday evening, during dinner, Amanda looked up casually, like she was asking me to pass the salt, and said, "Since I quit my job for this family, I think it's only fair that you pay me what I was making. Monthly." I thought maybe she was joking, but her face didn't budge. She was dead serious. I asked her to repeat herself, just to be sure I heard her right. And she did. "I want you to pay me what I used to earn." My instinct was to laugh, honestly. She was making this demand after quitting her job without even asking for my opinion. I told her no. She gave me this cold look and stood up. From that night forward, the temperature in our house dropped. Even the kids noticed. My daughter asked me one morning, "Daddy, why doesn't Mommy say goodnight to you anymore?" I didn't know what to say. I just smiled and said, "She's probably tired, baby." But I knew that wasn't it. It got worse. The kids would come up to me after school or when I tucked them in and say things like, "Mom said you're selfish," or "Mom told Andy you don't take care of us." I'd swallow hard and give them a pat on the head, trying to cover things. Amanda began going out more frequently, sometimes the whole evening. I'd come home, and the nanny would be there with the kids, clueless about the whereabouts of my wife. One night, I waited up for her. When she finally walked in, I asked, gently, "Where have you been?" She rolled her eyes, threw her purse on the couch, and snapped, "Don't ask me stupid questions. You don't owe me." And that was the tone going forward. Any attempt to talk turned into her cussing me out, telling me I had no right to question her movements, that I wasn't in charge of her life. This was rebellion. It started to feel like she resented me. I tried to keep the peace. For the kids. For my sanity. But something inside me started whispering that there was more to this whole thing. One night, I came home a little earlier than usual. When I walked to the kids' room to say a quick hello, I heard them talking about something I couldn't make sense of initially. But then I caught a sentence about a man that Mommy brought the other day. I tried to process what I'd just heard. Who was this man? What did they see? What exactly happened when I wasn't home? I stepped into their room and gently asked them about it, try to understand. I asked, "Hey, earlier, you mentioned a man Mommy brought over. What did you mean?" But they clammed up instantly. One of them looked down. The other said they didn't remember. I could see it on their faces. They were scared, maybe told not to say anything. Later that night, I asked Amanda directly if there was someone else, anyone I should know about. She didn't answer the question. She got angry instead, said I was paranoid and I needed help. Then she flipped it on me, insulted me, claimed I was insecure, and walked out. She never denied it. She never confirmed it either. So I did something I never imagined I'd have to do by hiring a private investigator. I needed to know the truth. I gave them all the details I could. While the investigation got underway, I spent most nights wondering what would happen if they brought me back proof. What would I do? File for divorce? Could I even handle that? What about the kids? The idea of splitting up this family, of having my kids grow up in a broken home, crushed me. I had sworn I'd never put my children through a broken home. But now here I was, watching my marriage rot from the inside, with no way to stop it. After that initial confrontation, things between Amanda and me changed completely in a bad way. She stopped sharing a bed with me, moved into the guest room, and stopped cooking for me. She started coming home later and later, never offering explanations. Sometimes I'd hear the garage door open well past midnight, with no apologies or conversation. I stopped asking. I was tired of the lies, the gaslighting, the empty silence that followed any question. We were just coexisting now for the kids. Every day felt heavier than the last, and the house no longer felt like home. I was reaching my limit, and I knew whether the PI confirmed it or not, something had already broken between us. 2 weeks after that cold, bitter confrontation, I was at work when the front desk called my office line. They said someone was downstairs insisting they needed to hand-deliver something to me personally. I didn't think much of it at first. Maybe it was a courier with signed documents from a vendor. So I walked downstairs to find a man in a suit, a smug expression on his face, holding a manila envelope. He introduced himself as Amanda's lawyer. He handed me the envelope and told me that Amanda was filing for divorce, and that she'd be going after everything. I looked him right in the eye and smiled. I took the envelope, nodded once, and walked away. That evening, when I got home, Amanda wasn't there. I sat on the edge of the bed we used to share and held that manila envelope in my hands for a long time. If she wanted out that badly, then there was no point trying to fix what was already shattered. The very next day, I made a few calls and hired a lawyer of my own. We still lived under the same roof, but from that day forward, it was like living with a ghost. We didn't speak, and we didn't look at each other. We were strangers now, or roommates at best. Then, about a week after I filed my response to her divorce petition, I got a call from the private investigation agency I'd quietly hired weeks earlier. They said they had something for me. So I drove down, and when I got there, they handed me a folder. Photos, videos, logs, all of it. Amanda was meeting up with someone repeatedly, at a hotel, at restaurants, even once in the back of a parked car. But it wasn't just anyone. It was the same damn lawyer who handed me the divorce papers at my office. The man who smiled as he told me I was about to lose everything. That was her affair. I can't lie. I sat in my car for 15 minutes after that meeting just processing it, trying to make sense of how low she'd stoop, using the man she was sleeping with to legally attack the man she'd once promised forever to. But the anger didn't last long, because I realized something else. She just handed me the one thing she didn't expect, leverage. I sent everything straight to my legal team. They called it a gold mine, conflict of interest, ethical violation, possibly even malpractice. My lawyer told me, "We've got her right where we need her. Let us handle it." And from that point forward, I did just that. I stopped trying to understand her. I stopped wondering why. I let the lawyers do the talking, because she made her move. And now it was my turn. When the divorce proceedings officially started, I noticed Amanda thought she was about to cash out. She had no idea what was really waiting for her on the other side of that table. See, for most of our marriage, Amanda had this assumption that I was sitting on a mountain of money. I didn't argue. I let her think whatever she wanted. But the truth is, most of my money wasn't liquid. A lot of it was tied up in assets she didn't understand or bother to ask about. When she saw the real financial breakdown that my legal team submitted, her whole demeanor changed. Suddenly, she wasn't grinning anymore. She accused me of hiding assets, said I was trying to cheat her. Her lawyers jumped on it immediately and tried to drag things out, demanding audits, going through financial records from 10 years ago, hoping they'd find something. I knew they wouldn't. Everything I had was documented. While they wasted time chasing shadows, I stayed quiet because I had something far more powerful than hidden money. I had proof of her affair. Now, I didn't throw that out on the first day. No, I waited for the time being. I made it clear to the court that Amanda had been unfaithful, that she'd started the divorce process before I could confront her, likely to get ahead of it. I knew who she was sleeping with, but I saved that bomb for the custody hearings, where it would matter most. The custody battle was brutal. Amanda painted herself as this perfect, stable parent and tried to act like I was some cold, distant figure. But when it came time to put everything on the table, my lawyer brought out evidence, all pointing to one thing: Amanda and her lawyer were in a romantic relationship, even while he was supposed to be representing her interests in court. That changed everything. Her lawyer tried to spin it, claimed they were together, before he ever took her on as a client. I could tell the judge didn't buy it, not even for a second. Because even if it was true, it didn't make it better. It made it worse. That meant he was already emotionally invested, already biased, before he ever stood in front of the judge to argue on her behalf. It wasn't just unprofessional, it was unethical. Conflict of interest. Clear violation of legal boundaries. The kind that gets a lawyer investigated by the state bar. The judge didn't take it lightly. You could see the shift in the room. Amanda's team went from aggressive to scrambling. Her lawyer's face said it all, like he realized too late how badly he'd miscalculated. His own reputation was on the line now, and Amanda was stunned, like she just realized this thing wasn't going the way she planned. Her power play had backfired. That moment flipped the entire case. Because now, she wasn't the wronged wife anymore. She was the woman having an affair with the man hired to fight for her. And he wasn't a fierce advocate anymore. He was a man who had crossed a line and exposed her case to collapse. When the court officially acknowledged the inappropriate relationship between Amanda and her lawyer, it shifted everything. They didn't expect it to go that far. You could tell by how fast things changed on their end. Suddenly, Amanda was trying to reach me directly, calling my phone constantly. I didn't answer. Whatever she had to say, she could say it through the proper channels. Her lawyer also reached out to my legal team, trying to push for an out-of-court settlement. I think they both realized that if this kept playing out in front of a judge, their reputations weren't just going to take a hit, they were going to get dragged through the dirt. At that point, I had nothing to prove. I told my attorney, handle it. Whatever protects my kids, my peace, and what I've worked for. The negotiations went on for a while, but in the end, we reached a settlement. The marriage was officially dissolved. I kept most of my assets. Amanda walked away with a legal minimum based on how long we'd been married. It wasn't what she was expecting, I'm sure. She probably thought she'd walk out of the marriage with a golden parachute, but that never came. Actions have consequences. The one thing I refused to compromise on was my relationship with my children. And thankfully, I didn't have to. I secured full access with no restrictions. That was non-negotiable for me. I made it clear from day one, I may be done with Amanda, but I am not done being a father. That part of my life remains unchanged. After everything was signed and finalized, Amanda moved out. In the weeks that followed, I had time to sit with everything. On paper, it looks like I won. I kept what mattered by keeping my kids close. But deep down, it didn't feel like a win. No man walks into marriage thinking it'll end like this. I didn't marry Amanda to fight her in court. I loved her. I would have stayed and worked through anything, except this. Her betrayal, and the way she went about it, left a wound. One that won't heal just because I got a favorable outcome. As for her lawyer, I don't know what's going to happen to him professionally. There are rules in this business, lines you're not supposed to cross, and he stepped way over them. If another attorney or ethics board decides to dig into his past, that's up to them. I won't be the one pushing it. Like I told my lawyer, I'm not interested in burying a man already standing in the hole he dug himself. That's not my job. Thank you for watching. If you made it this far, I appreciate you. What would you have done if you were in my shoes?